The homestead was quiet, save for the occasional rustle of wind brushing against the Martian soil. Dust swirled lazily around the solitary figure, an earthling with calloused hands and a gaze hardened by years of isolation. Life on this barren colony was predictable, and he liked it that way. Until today. A shimmering portal tore through the fabric of reality just beyond his crop field. He blinked, instinctively reaching for the plasma tool at his side. The air crackled with energy as the portal stabilized, its surface rippling like molten silver. Then she stepped through. She was unlike anything he'd seen, tall, graceful, with shimmering silver hair that caught the Martian sunlight and eyes that glowed with crystalline intensity. Her presence radiated an otherworldly elegance, but it was the desperation in her expression that caught him off guard. "Earthling," she said, her voice melodic yet trembling. "Please, take me as your servant." He stared, unsure whether to laugh or run. "Excuse me. I beg you," she continued, bowing deeply. "Allow me to serve you. I have nowhere else to go." His grip on the plasma tool tightened. "Why would someone like you, whatever you are, want to be a servant?" Her gaze faltered, and for a moment, vulnerability flickered across her face. "I have been cast out by my people. They find me defective. I lack their cruelty, their cold efficiency. My empathy makes me useless to them." He frowned. "Empathy is a defect. In my world, yes." Her voice wavered. "They discarded me like waste. Please, I have no purpose without servitude. It is all I know." He took a cautious step forward, studying her. "You're serious?" "Completely." She fell to one knee, her shimmering form oddly fragile against the red Martian landscape. "I will work hard. I will obey every command. Just, do not send me away." He sighed, the weight of her plea pressing against his skepticism. "Look, I'm not in the market for a servant. And I'm definitely not looking to get tangled up in whatever mess you're running from." Tears glistened in her crystalline eyes. "Then leave me here to perish." Something inside him twisted, a familiar pang he hadn't felt in years. Compassion was a dangerous luxury on Mars, but turning away someone in need felt even worse. He muttered a curse under his breath. "Fine. You can stay for now. But not as a servant. I don't do that whole master-slave thing." Her expression shifted to confusion. "Then, what am I to you?" "A guest," he said gruffly. "Maybe even a friend, if you're lucky." Hope flickered in her eyes. "Thank you, Earthling." He offered a rough nod. "Don't thank me yet. Mars isn't exactly a vacation spot." As the portal flickered and faded behind her, he couldn't shake the feeling that life was about to get a lot more complicated. The alien sat at the wooden table, her shimmering hair catching the dim light of the homestead's interior. The Earthling placed a metal cup of water in front of her, watching as she hesitated before picking it up. Her fingers trembled slightly, as if unfamiliar with the act of holding something so simple. "You really don't know how to just live, do you?" he asked, leaning back in his chair. She shook her head. "My existence was defined by service. In my world, each individual has a role, strict, unyielding. To question it is unthinkable. And empathy made you an outcast." Her eyes flickered with pain. "I could not bear to follow commands that caused harm to others. They saw this as weakness, a flaw in my design. I was cast out and labeled defective." He took a sip from his own cup, considering her words. "Sounds like your people have their priorities backward." She tilted her head. "You do not seek dominance over others." "Not my style." Silence stretched between them until she spoke again, her voice softer. "Why would you let me stay if not for servitude?" "Because that's what humans do," he said plainly. "We help each other, even when it doesn't make sense." Her expression shifted, a mix of wonder and confusion. "Your kind is strange." "Yeah, we get that a lot." He stood and walked toward a cluttered workbench. "Come on. If you're going to stick around, you might as well learn how to fix things." She rose gracefully, following him with an elegance that seemed almost out of place in the rough, utilitarian homestead. "This," he said, holding up a damaged circuit board, "is what keeps the air recyclers running. Without it, we suffocate." Her eyes glowed with curiosity. "Show me." As he guided her through the repair process, she listened intently, her delicate fingers surprisingly adept at handling the components. "You catch on quick," he admitted. "I was engineered for adaptability," she said quietly. "But I have never been allowed to use it freely. Well, consider this your chance." She paused, looking at him with a sincerity that caught him off guard. "Thank you for giving me that chance." He shrugged, uncomfortable with the gratitude. "Just don't break anything." A sudden flicker from the communication beacon caught his attention. The signal was faint but persistent, a series of pulses that didn't belong to any Earth-based network. She stiffened. "They are searching for me." He set his jaw. "Let them search. They're not taking you back." Her voice wavered. "You would risk defying them?" "Yeah," he said grimly. "That's what humans do too." The hum of machinery filled the homestead as the alien worked alongside the Earthling, her silver hair glinting in the artificial light. She moved with precision, fitting components together as he showed her the basics of maintaining the solar array. "See? Not that complicated," he said, wiping sweat from his brow. "I find this satisfying," she admitted, her crystalline eyes focused on her task. "Creating stability through effort." He chuckled. "Welcome to human ingenuity. If it's broken, we fix it. If we don't know how, we figure it out." She paused, considering his words. "That is why your species thrives despite your vulnerabilities, isn't it? You adapt." "Pretty much. We're stubborn like that." She looked thoughtful. "On my world, problems are solved through control and dominance. If something does not conform, it is eliminated." "Sounds efficient," he said dryly. "But cold." "It is." Her voice softened. "Yet I find warmth here, even in this harsh environment." He glanced at her, surprised by the sentiment. "Didn't expect to hear that from someone who came here begging to be a servant." "I am learning," she said with quiet dignity. "You have taught me that existence can be about more than obedience." "Glad to hear it." They worked in silence for a while until she spoke again. "May I ask something personal?" "Shoot. Do you not grow lonely here, far from others of your kind?" He hesitated. "Sometimes. But solitude's better than dealing with people who don't get you." She nodded in understanding. "I think I understand now. Empathy made me an outsider among my people. Here, it connects me to you." He scratched the back of his neck, feeling a bit awkward. "Yeah, well, humans are complicated like that. We fight, love, build, and mess things up, but we always try to make it better." She smiled faintly. "It is beautiful, in its way." Before he could respond, the beacon crackled to life again, louder this time. The signal pulsed with urgency, and a holographic display flickered above the console. "Looks like they're getting closer," he muttered grimly. Her serene expression faltered. "They will not stop until they retrieve me." He tightened his jaw. "Then we'll just have to show them what human resilience looks like." Her eyes gleamed with newfound resolve. "I will stand with you." "You sure?" he asked. "I am sure," she said firmly. "I am no longer just a servant. You have shown me what it means to be more." He grinned despite the looming threat. "Then let's give them a fight they won't forget." The communication beacon blared as the sky above the homestead darkened. A sleek alien vessel descended, its hull gleaming with ominous light. The Earthling stood firm, his makeshift defense system activated, an array of EMP traps and magnetic disruptors rigged together from salvaged parts. The alien beauty stepped beside him, her expression calm despite the tension in the air. "They will not negotiate," she warned. "They see compassion as weakness, and weakness must be eradicated." "Yeah, well, I've got a problem with people telling me what I can't protect," he said. A harsh voice crackled through the ship's external speakers. "Surrender the defective one, Earthling, and you may be spared." The Earthling smirked. "Not happening." The ship's weapons powered up, humming with deadly intent. Energy beams lanced toward the homestead, but the EMP traps triggered in response, sending out shockwaves that short-circuited the targeting systems. "Nice shot," the alien beauty remarked, impressed by the crude yet effective setup. "Thanks. Built it myself," he said, gritting his teeth as he adjusted the disruptor frequency. The alien enforcers deployed from the vessel, their forms sleek and intimidating, moving with precision. Their energy weapons glowed, but the Earthling had anticipated this. "Hit the switch," he instructed. She pressed a button on the console, unleashing a magnetic pulse that disarmed the enforcers' weapons. Sparks flew as their advanced tech malfunctioned. "They are vulnerable," she noted. "Time to finish this." Grabbing a makeshift energy baton, he charged forward, the alien beauty moving gracefully beside him. The enforcers fought with cold efficiency, but without their weapons, they were no match for the Earthling's stubborn ferocity and her newfound resolve. Together, they dismantled the threat, their movements synchronized in a way that spoke of mutual respect and trust. As the last enforcer collapsed, the ship's systems flickered, destabilized by the earlier EMP blasts. The vessel began to lift off, retreating into the sky. "They are withdrawing," she confirmed. "Good. Maybe they'll think twice before messing with us again." Silence settled over the homestead, broken only by the crackle of fading energy fields. The Earthling caught his breath, his gaze meeting hers. "You okay?" he asked. "Yes," she said softly. "And I am free." He nodded. "Told you we'd figure it out." Her crystalline eyes glowed with gratitude. "You have shown me what it means to fight for something beyond survival. To fight for connection, for purpose. That's humanity for you," he said with a wry grin. "Messy, stubborn, but we get the job done." She smiled. "I am honored to stand with you." "Likewise." As they stood amidst the wreckage, the horizon bathed in the warm glow of the Martian sun, one thing was clear: life on this harsh planet had just found a new kind of hope.